The officer asked, "Sir, where are you going at this hour?" The man replied, "I'm on my way to a lecture." The officer raised an eyebrow. "A lecture? At 2 a.m.? What kind of lecture?" The man said, "It's about alcohol abuse, smoking, staying out late, and the effects it all has on the human body." The officer, now confused, asked, "Really? Who's giving a lecture like that in the middle of the night?" The man sighed and said, "My wife." A guy goes to a psychiatrist to see about his strange dreams. "Doctor, I'm dreaming every night about a soccer tournament for ants. It's on every night. They went through a group stage, a knockout phase, and it's the only thing I've been dreaming about the last week. It's driving me nuts." So the doctor says, "Well, that's easy. Just take this medicine before going to bed tonight and the dreams will be gone." To which the guy replies, "No, no, no, doctor, not tonight because it's the finals." Grandpa and Grandma were sitting at the kitchen table one quiet afternoon, sipping coffee like they'd done for decades. Out of nowhere, Grandma stood up, rolled up her newspaper, and whacked Grandpa right across the head. He nearly spilled his coffee. "What the heck was that for?" he asked, rubbing his ear. Grandma replied calmly, "That's for 40 years of disappointing bedroom adventures." Grandpa sat there stunned for a moment, then slowly rolled up his own newspaper, walked over to Grandma, and gave her a firm bop on the head. She stared at him, eyes wide. "And what was that for?" He shrugged and said, "That's for knowing the difference." A pensioner drove his brand-new Mercedes to 100 Mamie Boulevard on the M1. Looking in his rear-view mirror, he saw a police car behind him. He floored it to 140, then 150, then 155. Suddenly, he thought, "I'm too old for this nonsense." So he pulled over to the side of the road and waited for the police car to catch up with him. The officer walked up to him, looked at his watch, and said, "Sir, my shift ends in 10 minutes. Today is Friday, and I'm taking off for the weekend with my family. If you can give me a good reason that I've never heard before, why you were speeding, I'll let you go." The man looked very seriously at the policeman and replied, "Years ago, my wife ran off with a policeman. I thought you were bringing her back." The cop left, saying, "Have a good day, sir." A young couple had just gotten married, and they spent their wedding night doing what most newlyweds do, celebrating their love again and again all night long. The next morning, the husband hopped in the shower while his new bride relaxed in bed. When he finished, he realized he had forgotten to grab a towel. "Sweetheart," he called out, "can you bring me a towel, please?" She walked over to the bathroom with the towel in hand. When he opened the door to take it, there he stood, dripping wet and completely exposed. Her eyes widened as she glanced down, then back up, then back down, and stopped halfway. With a puzzled look, she pointed and asked, "Wait, what's that?" He hesitated, slightly embarrassed, and replied, "That's what we had so much fun with last night." She paused, looked even more confused, and asked innocently, "Oh, is that all that's left?" A man goes to a psychiatrist for a variety of psychological issues. During the interview, the subject of sex comes up. The doctor asked him, "How often do you have intercourse with your wife?" "3 times a week," he replied. "And what's your favorite position that you both enjoy?" "We prefer doggy style, on your hands and knees." "Why do you prefer that position?" the doctor asks. The man replies, "Well, how else are both of us going to watch TV?" Sherlock Holmes and Watson are taking a walk in the garden nearby after a case. Watson suddenly turns towards Holmes and says, "You must stop making fun of me now, Holmes. I'm not that dumb now. That was long ago." Sherlock Holmes looks at Watson a bit mockingly and says, "Okay, then. Show me what you can deduce from the objects you see around us." "Sure," says Watson. "Here's a tennis ball I just found here. Let me deduce the daylights out of it. This tennis ball is harder than ordinary tennis balls. That tells us that the owner is a strong man who hits the ball hard. This tennis ball has a brown weight attached on one side. That tells me that the owner is an advanced tennis player who loves to play tennis with a twist. The green color of this tennis ball matches the color of the grass at Wimbledon. This tells us that the owner might be a world-class tennis player. "What do you think, Holmes?" asks Watson with a smirk. Sherlock Holmes yawns and says, "You've been excellent this time, Watson. Now come on, give me that guava because I'm hungry." A retired banker went to a psychiatrist. He said, "For 30 years I worked in a bank as a teller. Every day I would serve dozens of customers. I loved my job and never missed a day. Last month I retired. Since then, every time I pass a bank, I have a huge craving to enter and take out money. Even if I pass an ATM, I have to stop and take some cash out. I've got thousands of dollars in cash at home, yet every day I feel desperate to go to the bank and take out more. What's wrong with me?" The psychiatrist replied, "It sounds like you're having withdrawal symptoms." A drunken man was stumbling home late one night and, as usual, took his shortcut through the graveyard. It was dark, and he didn't notice a freshly dug grave, fell straight in. He tried climbing out, but the sides were too steep and muddy. He shouted for help, but no one was around. After a couple of hours, the cold began to set in, and he sat shivering at the bottom of the hole. Eventually, Bob, another late-night wanderer, came walking by and heard the faint cries. "Help! Please! Someone help me! I'm cold!" Bob peered over the edge of the grave, saw the figure inside, and calmly said, "Well, of course you're cold. You've gone and kicked all the dirt off." A wedding occurred just outside Cavan in Ireland. To keep tradition going, everyone got extremely drunk, and the bride's and groom's families have a storming row and begin wrecking the reception room and generally kicking the living daylights out of each other. The police get called in to break up the fight. The following week, all members of both families appear in court. The fight continues in the courtroom until the judge finally brings calm with the use of his hammer, shouting, "Silence in court!" The courtroom goes silent, and Patty, the best man, stands up and says, "Judge, I was the best man at the wedding, and I think I should explain what happened." The judge agrees and asks Patty to take the stand. Patty begins his explanation by telling the court that it is traditional in a Cavan wedding that the best man gets the first dance with the bride. The judge says, "Okay." "Well," said Patty, "after I had finished the first dance, the music kept going, so I continued dancing to the second song, and after that the music kept going, and I was dancing to the third song, when all of a sudden the groom leapt over the table, ran towards us, and gave the bride an unmerciful kick right between her legs." Shocked, the judge instantly responded, "God, that must have hurt." "Hurt?" Patty replies. "He broke 3 of my fingers." A bartender is sitting behind his bar when a well-dressed but obviously intoxicated man stumbles in. "Bartender, a drink for everyone, a drink for me, and a drink for yourself," the man yells as he approaches. Bartender pours all the drinks. The whole bar cheers. They all drink. Bartender hands the bill to the man, and he just shrugs and says, "Oh, I didn't bring my wallet with me tonight, sorry." The bartender proceeds to beat the living daylights out of the man and throws him out. Next night, bartender is again behind his bar when the same well-dressed but intoxicated man stumbles in. "Bartender, a drink for everyone, a drink for me, and a drink for yourself," the man happily announces as he approaches. Bartender thinks, "This guy can't be that stupid. He probably came to pay. Now I feel bad for beating him so hard previous night." He pours all the drinks, the whole bar cheers. They all drink. Bartender hands the bill to the man, and he again shrugs and says, "Oh, I didn't bring my wallet with me again, sorry." The bartender proceeds to beat the man even harder and kicks him out. Third night in the row, bartender just can't believe his eyes when he sees the man return. "Bartender, a drink for everyone and a drink for me," the man calls out as he approaches. Bartender is fuming and grins sardonically. "What, no drink for me tonight?" The drunk looks at him and says, "Nah, man, you get way too violent when you drink." A 17-year-old boy who works part-time at Pizza Hut pulls up to his house in a stunning Porsche. His parents are immediately suspicious, knowing there's no way his after-school job could have paid for such an expensive car. "Where did you get that car?" they shout, astonished. "I bought it today," the boy replies calmly. "With what money?" his mom demands. "We know how much a Porsche costs, and there's no way you can afford it." The boy shrugs. "It's used, and I got a great deal. I only paid $20 for it." His parents are even more shocked. "Who would sell a Porsche for $20? "The woman up the street," the boy explains. "She just moved in. I delivered a pizza to her, and she offered to sell me the Porsche for $20. Baffled, his parents rush to the neighbor's house, ready for an explanation. They find her calmly planting flowers in her yard. "I'm the father of the boy you sold a Porsche to for $20, the dad says. "We need to know why you sold it so cheap." The woman, without looking up, responds, "I got a call from my husband this morning. I thought he was on a business trip in Florida, but it turns out he ran off to Hawaii with his secretary and doesn't plan on coming back." The boy's mom, still confused, asks, "But what does that have to do with selling our son a Porsche for $20? With a satisfied smile, the woman replies, "My husband told me to sell his new Porsche and send him the money, so I did." 3 kids are arguing about whose dad is the fastest. At lunch, the first boy says, "My dad is the fastest because he is a bricklayer, and when he drops a brick from the 5th floor, he can run to the ground level and be there before the brick hits." "Not bad," says the second boy, "but my dad is faster. He is a professional archer. When he shoots an arrow at the bullseye, he can reach it before the arrow does." "That's pretty fast," says the third boy, "but not as fast as my old man. My dad works for the government as a public servant, and when he finishes work at 5 p.m., he can get home by 2:30. The 7 dwarfs go to the Vatican, and because they are the 7 dwarfs, they are immediately ushered in to see the Pope. Grumpy leads the pack. "Grumpy, my son," says the Pope, "what can I do for you?" Grumpy asks, "Excuse me, Your Excellency, but are there any dwarf nuns in Rome?" The Pope wrinkles his brow at the odd question, thinks for a moment, and answers, "No, Grumpy, there are no dwarf nuns in Rome." In the background, a few of the dwarfs start giggling. Grumpy turns around and glares, silencing them. Grumpy turns back. "Your worship, are there any dwarf nuns in all of Europe?" The Pope, puzzled now, again thinks for a moment and then answers, "No, Grumpy, there are no dwarf nuns in Europe." This time, all of the other dwarfs burst into laughter. Once again, Grumpy turns around and silences them with an angry glare. Grumpy turns back and says, "Mr. Pope, are there any dwarf nuns anywhere in the world?" The Pope, really confused by the question, says, "I'm sorry, my son, there are no dwarf nuns anywhere in the world." The other dwarfs collapse into a heap, rolling and laughing, pounding the floor, tears rolling down their cheeks as they begin chanting. "Grumpy shagged a penguin. Grumpy shagged a penguin." An 80-year-old woman had been seeing the same doctor for most of her life, but eventually he retired, and she had to visit a new physician for her annual checkup. At the appointment, the young doctor asked her to bring a list of all the medications she was taking. As he reviewed the list, his eyes widened in surprise. "Mrs. Smith, I see you have a prescription for birth control pills?" She smiled and nodded. "Yes, they help me sleep at night." He blinked. "Ma'am, I can assure you, there's nothing in birth control pills that would help with sleep." She gently patted his knee and said, "I know, dear. But every morning I crush one up and mix it in my 16-year-old granddaughter's orange juice." She leaned in and added with a grin, "And believe me, it helps me sleep very well at night." A man hates his wife's cat with a passion and decides to get rid of it once and for all. He drives 20 blocks away from home and drops the cat there. The cat is already walking up the driveway as the man approaches his house. The next day, he decides to drop the cat 40 blocks away. But the same thing happens. He keeps on increasing the number of blocks, but the cat keeps on coming home before him. At last, he decides to drive a few miles away, turn right, then left, past the bridge, then right again, and another right, and so on until he reaches what he thinks is a perfect spot, and drops the cat there. Hours later, the man calls his wife at home and asks her, "Jen, is the cat there?" "Yes. Why do you ask?" answers the wife. Frustrated, the man says, "Put that cat on the phone. I'm lost and I need directions."